Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone.
It was a time of kings and kingdoms, of prophets and warriors, of fierce battles and fragile truces. The ancient world of the Hebrew Bible was a place where power was usually measured by the sword, where wisdom was often found in the bearded elders at the city gates, or in the voices of prophets roaring out divine oracles. But nestled in the pages of the Old Testament is a brief, powerful moment, easy to miss if you read too quickly, when an unnamed woman emerges from the shadows of history, speaks only a few lines, and forever alters the course of a bloody siege. She is known to us only as the wise woman of Abel Beth Maacah, and her intervention saved her city from destruction. Her story spans just a few verses in 2 Samuel 20, yet the echoes of her voice ring across millennia. Who was she? What was her secret? And why has her wisdom endured as one of the Bible's most compelling yet underappreciated treasures? To discover the story of this mysterious woman is to journey into the turbulent twilight of King David's reign in ancient Israel. The context is crucial. David's kingdom, forged in war and held together by charismatic leadership and divine mandate, was beginning to show signs of internal fracture. After the dramatic rebellion of his son Absalom, the kingdom was in political disarray. Absalom had nearly overthrown David, and though the rebellion had been quashed, its residue remained. Many tribes felt alienated, and unity seemed tenuous at best. In the midst of this tension, a Benjaminite named Sheba, son of Bichri, sounded a trumpet and declared rebellion against David. "We have no part in David, no share in Jesse's son. Every man to his tent, Israel." 2 Samuel 20 verse 1. His words ignited a new crisis, a dangerous flame in an already fragile land. Sheba's rebellion quickly gained traction, particularly in the northern regions of Israel. Fearing another civil war, David dispatched his general Joab, a brilliant but brutal military commander, to crush the uprising. Sheba fled north, seeking refuge in the fortified city of Abel Beth Maacah, a city situated in the uppermost reaches of the kingdom near modern-day Lebanon. The city was ancient, culturally significant, and strategically vital. Joab marched upon it and laid siege without hesitation. As the battering rams pounded against its walls and Joab's men prepared for bloodshed, it seemed that the city, innocent of any crime beyond sheltering a fugitive, was doomed. Then, out of the city's ramparts came the voice of a woman, calm, commanding, unshaken in the face of violence. She called for Joab, and when he came to speak with her, she did not plead or panic. Instead, she spoke with reason, knowledge of tradition, and an iron confidence rarely attributed to women in biblical texts. Long ago they used to say, "Get your answer at Abel," and that settled it, she declared. "We are peaceful and faithful in Israel. You are trying to destroy a city that is a mother in Israel. Why do you want to swallow up the Lord's inheritance?" 2 Samuel 20 verses 18 to 19. These few words reveal layers of wisdom, diplomatic, legal, spiritual, and political. The woman reminded Joab and the reader of Abel's historic role as a center of counsel and arbitration. Her city, she implies, was once known not for warfare, but for wisdom. It was a place where disputes were settled with words rather than swords. Her invocation of this tradition served a dual purpose: to shame Joab into restraint and to reassert an ideal of Israelite society where justice and wisdom held sway over brute force. She invoked covenant language, the Lord's inheritance, which would resonate deeply with any Israelite commander, including one as hardened as Joab. Her argument wasn't just moral or pragmatic, it was theological. She aligned herself with the will of God, subtly implying that to destroy her city would be an act of sacrilege. Joab, notoriously ruthless, listened. In fact, he did more than listen, he negotiated. She offered a solution. If Sheba was the problem, she would deal with him. Joab agreed. The woman returned to her people, convinced them of the stakes, and orchestrated the beheading of Sheba, whose head was promptly thrown over the wall. Joab blew the trumpet, signaling the end of the siege, and withdrew. Bloodshed was averted. An entire city was saved. And the woman disappears from the narrative, her name never given, her legacy secured in anonymity. Why has this woman, so obviously intelligent, persuasive, and historically consequential, remained so obscure? Part of the reason lies in the structure of biblical narrative itself, which often prioritizes kings and prophets over commoners, especially women. Yet her story offers a rare glimpse of a different kind of authority, one rooted not in lineage or office, but in wisdom, diplomacy, and civic responsibility. In a society dominated by patriarchal norms, her prominence in this episode is both anomalous and profound. She speaks not as a wife or mother, roles typically assigned to women in biblical texts, but as a civic leader, perhaps even a magistrate or priestess of some kind. Her knowledge of Abel's legal traditions suggests she held an authoritative position in the city's governance, or at the very least, was an elder with significant influence. Historically, Abel Beth Maacah was a border city with a diverse cultural population. Archaeological excavations in the region have uncovered layers of occupation going back to the Bronze Age, suggesting a long history of mixed cultural exchange between Israelites, Arameans, Phoenicians, and other northern Levantine peoples. It's possible that Abel's legal and wisdom traditions were more inclusive of women, particularly in elder or matriarchal roles, than those in more centralized, southern parts of the kingdom. The idea of a city being a mother in Israel might not merely be metaphorical, but could reflect an actual social memory of female leadership or community governance. Her brilliance lies not only in her rhetorical strategy, but in her deft political maneuvering. She navigated a potentially genocidal conflict, understood the stakes, identified the true target of Joab's wrath, and engineered a surgical solution. The secret to her wisdom, then, is not merely her intelligence or eloquence, but her ability to wield influence without formal power. In a patriarchal world that often silenced women, she spoke and was heard. In a militarized crisis, she negotiated peace. In a moment where history might have forgotten her entirely, she inscribed herself in the biblical record as a woman whose words changed the fate of a city. Her story resonates across time not only because of its uniqueness, but because it shatters assumptions. She is neither prophetess nor queen, yet she exerts the kind of spiritual and political influence associated with both. Her namelessness, paradoxically, becomes part of her power. She becomes an archetype, a reminder that wisdom can come from unexpected places, that salvation sometimes speaks in a woman's voice, and that peace, though fragile, can be preserved by those brave enough to speak truth in the face of violence. Later Jewish tradition and Christian interpretation have not done nearly enough to celebrate her. Unlike Deborah, another wise and powerful woman in the Bible, she was not made the subject of songs or psalms. Yet she deserves to be remembered. In a world still struggling with conflict, with the misuse of power, and with the marginalization of women's voices, her story remains a beacon. She reminds us that wisdom is not the sole possession of kings and generals. It is found in the city walls, in the voices that rise above the din of war, in the courage to speak when silence would be easier. The wisest woman in the Bible may be nameless, but her legacy is unforgettable. Her secret, a fearless heart, a brilliant mind, and an unwavering belief that words can be mightier than weapons,